Hello and welcome back to Waypoint Ranks. We're back on that PlayStation Plus collection train. Here we go. Joining me today as regulars in the Waypoint crew is some other Josh. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you doing?
I can't hear anyone. Oh, hold on.
Off to a great start.
Technical difficulties.
Hello and welcome back to Waypoint Ranks. We're back on that PlayStation Plus train. Here we go. Joining me as part of the Waypoint crew, the regulars, we got some other Josh. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We got Alec Bobko. How you doing up there, Alec?
Doing good. Survived COVID and got myself a DualSense and a fresh new bomber jacket.
Oh, flexing. Wow, look at him. He looks fresh.
Yeah. It might come off in the episode because it is very warm.
Very warm. Jordan Deeb. How you doing, Jordan?
Fantastic. I did not get a DualSense yet. Do have the Pulse headset, and I saw my first next-gen box, but it was for an Xbox. I'll admit. But I saw the cardboard.
That's okay. Fair enough. Last but not least, we got Chris, aka RumblePack92, and he's got something he wants to talk about. How you doing, Chris?
Damn right I do. I'm feeling great, man. I got my PS I Love You shirt on. I am ready to talk about some games on the PlayStation. But first, if y'all haven't yet, be sure to head over to the very channel that you're sitting on if you're watching this right now and check out the first episode of This Is the Waypoint, a show where myself, Jordan, Josh, and our friend Brett are going to be discussing each episode of Season 2 of The Mandalorian week by week.
Such is our creed.
Perfect. Yeah, so if you're a Star Wars fan, it's a must-see. It's a must-watch content, for sure. So we started this PlayStation Plus collection ranking, and then like the day after we recorded the first episode, they added changes. They added games to it, like the day after. So that's great. But
I don't think it was the day after. I think it was the day of.
The day of?
I think I texted you guys like 5 minutes before recording. I was like, hey, there's more games.
No, it's definitely after. But yeah,
I thought it was after. Yeah, for sure.
It was just like, oh, god damn it.
Of course. But yeah, so PlayStation is adding the Crash Insane trilogy and Black Ops 3, if I have my notes correct. So in our finale, we're going to just add those in. We're going to just kind of place them where they may lie, and we'll vote on it and rank them that way. But I'm excited to talk about Crash Insane trilogy, but we're not doing that today. Now we're talking about the middle six. So any guesses, any bets on what we think is number 11 on this list? Do we got any guesses?
Man, going off of last week, I'm pretty sure y'all motherfuckers put Mortal Kombat X down here at number 11.
I was just going to say that too.
Yeah.
No opinion.
Well, he's not fighting us yet. Because it's not Mortal Kombat X. It's Detroit Become Human.
That makes
sense. Solid spot.
That's how I felt too. I felt right in the middle. That's where I enjoy those games. David Cage, I believe, is the guy's name, who's famous for like the Heavy Rain and the Beyond Two Souls. Another one before that I didn't play. Yeah. I really like Heavy Rain, and this was for me. This was more Heavy Rain, just in an aesthetic I didn't enjoy as much. Like the Android, I like the Android story, but it didn't hit home like Heavy Rain did. What do you guys think?
Right.
Oh, well, I didn't play it. So
I played it at launch, and from what I liked, because I'm like more story-driven games. I liked all the different paths and all that, like especially at the end of the level where it would show you literally every single choice and decision you could make. It was cool seeing all the possibilities that you could go and replay. I didn't, but it was cool just knowing all those options are there, and I'm sure the guides people had a hell of a time with that kind of game.
I went for the platinum, and I absolutely did, just doing all sorts of different choices, but I picked it up like super cheap on an E3 sale last year, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. It was my first Quantum Dreams game.
Same here.
I didn't play Beyond Two Souls or Heavy Rain, and I really liked the performances and all of that. Yeah, so I think 11 is like a pretty good spot for it.
So I'm with Chris in that I didn't play this
Pardon?
one, but I have.
Oh
played-
no! How dare you?
I
Yeah,
know, and
I hate to
there's
see
some
it.
weird wire in my head because I also haven't played this other game where I get Detroit Become Human and Deus Ex kind of just mixed up in my head, and I don't know why. I just think they're both games I haven't played yet that start with a D. So I'm just like, yeah, those are one and the same.
Very different games.
Very.
Yeah,
different.
yeah, exactly.
I think I'm just realizing that Detroit Become Human has little to no like actual action or combat.
Mhm.
But
a
I have
quick time
played
event.
Beyond Two Souls. I actually streamed it on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/orphangamers. Plug right there. But so the fact that I'm going to be getting it on the PS5 definitely makes me interested because I really liked Beyond Two Souls. So I want to hear what you guys have to say. But I mean, it's definitely one that I'm now excited to use with the PlayStation Plus collection.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'd
it's
say that, like I said before, Heavy Rain was a big part of my PS3, kind of like defining my gaming, just becoming a gamer. Heavy Rain was part of that. That Fallout 3, a lot of early PS3 games. And that was such a weird game for me. Like, it wasn't something like it was like a movie. You're playing a movie, and for my young brain, that was really freaking cool. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And Alec, you mentioned how they like laid out how you can do the replayability stuff. They
Mhm.
definitely they knew what they were doing. They didn't really do you dirty on the whole. We understand all these branches, and I think they just laid that out really well. That's a good point to bring up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very
You
good
ready
for
to
those
move
trophy
on?
hunters.
Absolutely. Ready to move on to number 10?
I think so.
All right. Final Fantasy 15 is number 10. What do we think about Final Fantasy 15?
Okay, so now I'm going to have a lot to say.
Wow, I didn't expect it to be that low.
I kind of did. So, okay, well, I'm just going to hold off. One thing I do want to add, though, Austin, is one of the things that did change with the addition of Crash and Black Ops 3 being added is that Final Fantasy 15 is now the Royal Edition of the game.
Ooh.
Which,
Okay.
someone correct me if I'm wrong, because I did play it on PC, but I played it with a DualShock 4, so I basically played on PS4. The Royal Edition is similar to the Windows Edition in which they've added a few cutscenes for context, and I think it comes with the DLCs for Prompto, Gladio, and Ignis. So, as somebody who basically played that version, let me give a history. Final Fantasy 15, I just played for the first time this May, was my first Final Fantasy game ever. Only other one I've played since was right after Final Fantasy VII Remake. In a lot of ways, I can understand why 7 is the better game, but it has been months and I am still thinking about 15, and I think it has to do with just this. It's mainly the story, from what I've understood when it originally came out, was very disjointed and to an extent still is, but a lot of the cutscenes they've added in the Windows/Royal Edition have helped fill in those blanks. And even if you don't know the lore, the story itself, just the raw story they do give you, is so, I don't even want to say heart-wrenching or heartwarming because it's both at the same time. And it's one of those things where it's these themes of brotherhood and friendship. And if you go deeper into the lore, you find out how each of the friends have met the main character you play as, Noctis. It's revealed in like a 5-episode anime, and it's just, we're all guys here, and I'm sure we all have our group of guy friends, whether they be from college or high school or they've mixed throughout the years. We know how they interact. We know how we just, rag on each other, but the love's always there. And before I played it to figure out if I would like the Final Fantasy games, at least the newer ones, I played the demo. And the second that the game started with all the friends joking while pushing their car that broke down as that cover of Stand By Me played, I was sold, and I still watch that opening scene. Like, I'm going to take it to anyone else who's played it, but goddamn, this game and this, yeah.
So I'll jump in on this too, to where I played a lot of Final Fantasy games. It's one of my favorite RPG series. Like I've been in for a long time. 15, especially the first half of it, because it's bros on a road trip together, right? Like and I mean, it's like not too early on, like not terribly long in the stakes get much higher, but I mean initially it's it's like Noctis's boys are also kind of his bodyguards, and because he's the prince of this kingdom, and he's on his way to get married to a princess of another kingdom, and it's this whole thing. And so the game just kind of starts out as like, we're gonna go get you to the princess to get ready for your wedding, and they're just chilling and hanging out. And the whole vibe of that, I think, is extremely unique, and that there's not a lot of other games that go for quite something like that up until the kingdom's attacked and the king dies, and then it becomes Final Fantasy. But that was a big one for Final Fantasy 2, in that it was the first game to completely buck the turn-based combat away. Like that's the first like action RPG that Final Fantasy has made, and they completely redid all this stuff. And it's very clearly, because it's a Nomura game, is very clearly influenced by Kingdom Hearts, like a ton. In lots of ways, and as a huge Kingdom Hearts fan, that was very cool to see. Some other notes that I really like about 15 is that I think it's got one of Final Fantasy's strongest soundtracks, which in itself is a series that is known for its music. So it's like, even if you don't play the game, the entire game soundtrack is on Spotify, and I can't recommend listening to that enough. To the point where you bring up that the game opens with a cover of Stand By Me by Florence and the Machine, and I actually, that's what my wife and I danced to at our wedding. It's that good. Like, it's incredible.
Oh, wow.
It's fantastic.
I highly recommend anybody, you guys, after we finish recording, or anybody watching this, if you haven't played it, just go on YouTube and watch that opening scene, because you think it's a cutscene, but it's actually gameplay, but it's just the right amount. And again, I know I'm just, oh man, I fell in love with this game, and I can't explain why, because I could call out every single issue it has, and yet it hooked me. I didn't.
It definitely has its issues. It starts out very open world and that sort of thing, and as it goes on, there's a point in the story where it kind of bottlenecks, and then you spend a lot of time like in dungeons, and it gets very linear, and that's kind of a make or break deal. I was less into the game at that point when that happened, but the open world parts of it are great, because I mean there's this whole like camping and like cooking mechanic that I absolutely love. All of the dialogue between all the characters is just fantastic, because it really is like being out with your boys, and you're all kind of poking fun at each other, but it's like the love's still there, man. It's just, even if you don't finish the game, play the first like 15 hours. Like it's worth it alone for that. Like it's fantastic.
You guys convinced me. I mean, I haven't played it. It's one of those games that kept buying it at GameStop on super cheap pre-owned deals and kept selling back and never playing. So
you added that second part, because I really thought you were about to turn around and there was just going to be a stack of Final Fantasy.
There's all 12 of them.
Nope.
Now you let us down.
Now, nope. But yeah, it was one of those games.
I never played this one either. I haven't played this one either. Final Fantasy isn't a series I've ever played, actually. I've played similar games like Legend of Dragoon and stuff like that. But anytime I ever looked into this game, I was like, it's just Sasuke and friends. Like it's Sasuke from Naruto and his buddies. That's how I view this game. But how many hours does it take to complete this game?
Honestly, you could do it in about 40.
Okay.
If you wanted to do just story and just enough grinding, I'd say it's about that. I know How to Beat, because I was always checking it. HowToBeat.com puts a mixture of side missions and like finishing the story at like I think about 53 hours. So if you don't want to do any of the side missions, that'll reduce the time. But I just did the quick ones for both XP and money in the game. But yeah,
I mean, yeah, it depends on how much time you decide to sink into doing like the monster hunting contracts or fishing, which I spent so much time doing.
Oh my god, fishing in that game.
Yeah. Plus, if you have PlayStation VR, they have you can do the fishing in VR.
I got really excited for a second, but I remembered I got this game on PC.
It's also worth noting too.
I kind of cut you off.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I just said I cut Josh off a little bit, so if Josh wanted to have any thoughts on this, he can talk.
Oh, I was just gonna say I haven't played it, but like my super conservative old man is like super into it, and like he loves this game, and I got it for him for Christmas, and yeah, my dad sank like easily over 60 hours into it, and yeah,
my dad loved this game too. Funny enough. It is worth noting. I think Jordan touched on it too. Is that because this is the complete edition? Is like when I played it, I played base game. Like I picked it up release day and everything. So I haven't actually touched any of the DLC yet. So I'm excited for it to come to this, so I can actually play through all of that. But Jordan was very right in that the story was extremely disjointed in the original release. Final Fantasy 15 went through years upon years upon years upon years of development hell. What?
off as 13 versus or versus
Yes.
13.
Yeah,
and,
versus 13,
yeah.
and then over like the course of like 10 years, it eventually became Final Fantasy 15 of what it is. Like it was a game that was it started out completely different. You can still kind of see shades of it in a lot of places, but part of what that Royal Edition does is it adds in a bunch of cutscenes in the halfway point of the game where there's a whole movie that actually takes place alongside the game, where I found out after finishing the game, of course, that movie actually has some pretty critical plot points in it that are just never told in the game. It's some Kingdom Hearts shit for sure, and it's my understanding like some of the cutscenes they put in are literally ripped straight from the movie and just like added into the game.
Yeah. So I'm gonna piggyback off that because even when I was playing this as recently as May, and this game came out I think 2015, I still went on Steam and there was just like a guide of like how to get the full story of Final Fantasy 15. I could be wrong, and I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy fan, so maybe the wording I'm using is gonna be slightly incorrect. But from what I gather, is like they wanted to turn 15 into like their next 7, so they wanted to just push so many movies in a short-lived anime about this universe. The movie you're talking about, Chris,
Kingslave.
Kingslave, I did watch. It takes place between chapters 1 and 2, but then they include cutscenes throughout the game. I can't speak to how the game looks like without those cutscenes because I both watched the movie and the cutscenes came with me. I have a friend who like this is his favorite game of all time, is about to replay it, and he messaged me. He goes, "Oh, there's a cutscene in the beginning, without spoilers, just a cutscene in the beginning before you end up pushing that car." He messaged me because he goes, "Yeah, that cutscene was not in there. We just started pushing the car."
Yeah, that was how the game opened for me.
Yeah. So if you really, really want to get the full lore of this, I would recommend going to one of those guides on Steam. But if you have the Royal Edition, you'll get enough context of the big event without knowing the details behind it, and you'll still understand the rest of the story. I did all that, and I still have areas in the lore where I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Welcome to Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A friend of mine told me that the plot of this game was basically like it kept trying to one-up itself, and the fault in that was that sometimes it failed. Does that sound right to you guys?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate.
And
it's not like bad.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes you're like, oh.
As for the DLC as well, I want to touch on that. The DLCs, if you want to make it so perfect, there's a certain times to play the first DLC, a certain time to play the second, and then you play the last one at the end. You could just play them all at the end because it's more filling in without spoilers. There's a couple points in the game where a side character is just like, oh, I have to go off and do something. And the DLC is just what that character did for like the 1 or 2 levels they're not there with you. But it actually, in my opinion, adds a lot of character to the DLCs without getting into them. Added so much character development to Gladio and Prompto specifically, and fills in a detail about Ignis that I recommend everyone play them at some point while you play this game.
Interesting.
Oh,
I'm excited for that. I love all the characters in 15. Like, I'm excited to play those.
The characters are so good. Like, they're all stock characters, but like in the most realistic way. And I can't explain what I mean by that.
They do look like a male version of Baby Metal, but I love it.
Not familiar with Baby Metal, but like
it's if you were to take a J-pop group and then put a metal band behind them, that's what Baby Metal is.
Okay, I see it now. Yeah.
I kind of feel like we did Detroit Become Human dirty because we talked about that for like 5 minutes, and then we talked about Final Fantasy 15. Hey, definitively by our ranking. So.
I mean, Detroit is Detroit, you know. Yep. It's not much to talk about it.
What does that mean?
I never got too deep into Quantum Game stuff anyway. Like I was.
It's just a linear story. That I mean, it branches, but it's a very linear thing that it happens, you know.
I'm a David Cage apologist. Like, I love his games.
All right, so me and Chris are going to play Detroit Become Human. You guys are all going to play Final Fantasy 15, and then we'll just have a whole episode debating those very different games.
I'll play the first
versus Lord of the Rings.
I'll play the first 10 hours, and that's all I got. That's the best
part of the game anyway.
So.
I'll platinum this game.
Yeah, perfect. Oh no.
Good luck.
No. We are going to move on, though.
It's a rough
Number 9. Number 9 on our list. Moving on. After Final Fantasy 15 is Ratchet and Clank.
Oh.
What do you think?
Never played.
I played the original one. Because I know this one was a
I love
remake.
this game. Yeah.
So this
Yeah,
one
I like
was-
rented.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go
Josh,
ahead.
you can go. I was just gonna explain to Chris.
Oh, I was-
how.
Yeah, I was gonna like I rented a few of the old ones on PS2 way back in the day, but like this is the first like deep dive I did into Ratchet and Clank, and it's like I love the gameplay. All the weapons are fun and unique, just like Sunset Overdrive, which is another Insomniac joint, and the writing is just it's pretty funny. Like, and the entire time playing it, I really wanted it to be a Rocket Raccoon game. Yeah.
So for me, Ratchet and Clank is one of my favorite franchises. I had all of them on the PS2, and I played all of them kind of simultaneously. Never beat them, but just got a taste of each. A couple of years ago, I even went out and bought a PS2, and all 3 sequels still are in my backlog. And now I'm just like, well, I have an emulator now, so don't steal, kids. But anyway, for people who haven't played this version but have played other Ratchet and Clanks, it's so weird and they even joke about it on the back. I would reach for the game, but it's a little too far. So they adapted the Ratchet and Clank movie the year this came out, 2016, which was an adaptation of the first game with a few more backstory and liberties taken. And so this followed more of the story. And Alec, if you want to turn that around,
yeah, let's see if it'll focus.
Based on the movie, based on the game.
Yeah, it's not focusing for some reason.
Beautiful.
It's Ratchet and Clank. It feels like Ratchet and Clank. It plays like Ratchet and Clank. It's not super important to Rift Apart because I'm trying to catch up on. And this game's horrible. No, we know what it says.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No sense in messing with my focus.
I was trying to catch up on my Ratchet and Clank lore, which is a sentence a virgin says. And I think Rift Apart is going to continue off of like the interdimensional stuff we've seen in the PS3 versions, but if we're just talking this one, also just fantastic, feels and plays like Ratchet and Clank. I had a trouble figuring out where I wanted this versus Final Fantasy 15. So this is like my sweet spot of the list.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna.
Like I said, I didn't play this. Go ahead, Alec. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I never played it, but it is like on my list because the one that's coming for PS5 looks so good that I want to play this.
Question. Yeah. Hi, Chris from twitch.tv/RomanPack92. You've never played it, correct. Al?
He owns
Correct.
it.
But you just showed off your physical copy of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, cheap GameStop sale. So.
What if this entire list is just games that Alec has bought and never played?
I do that a lot. I do that a lot.
He's like, oh yeah, I love the PlayStation Plus collection. I haven't played any of them.
I own them.
I do own them. Here's all 20.
Funny.
The ones I have played, I am passionate about. So.
Oh, man. That's so good.
If you play Ratchet and Clank, you'll be passionate about it.
Oh, for sure. Oh, I know it looks right up my alley. It's just one of those things because I didn't own a PS2, so I never played any of the other Ratchet and Clanks. So it's just one of those things that just kind of skipped me by.
It's funny you say that. The PS2 ones were the only ones I played. I believe my favorite in the series has always been, I got to try to remember the name of it. I believe it's called Up Your Arsenal. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, like is the second one. And so I mean, now that I'm essentially getting this one for free once I pick up the PlayStation 5, I'm probably gonna play it, especially since Rift Apart looks so good.
Yeah, that's the Rift Apart. Yep.
Yeah, and
I want to mention that Rift Apart looked like the first. Rift Apart looks like the first one that I am like super stoked to jump into.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't know. I played a Ratchet and Clank game back in the day, but I think it was like a demo disc type of thing, where it was only like part of the game. And this is a PlayStation show, but Josh, you mentioned Sunset Overdrive, and that's a game I really want to play. That's a game I really genuinely want to play. And
it's on Game Pass.
And I just ordered. I just got charged for my Series S, so that's going to be coming soon.
Nice.
And that's one of the first games I'm genuinely aiming to play is Sunset Overdrive because that is probably underrated. Everyone I talk to about that game just swears up and down that this might be Insomniac's best game. And with Spider-Man existing, like they just said that basically they said that there's a valid argument, and that even saying that means that there has to be equal amount of praise to Sunset Overdrive. And since they made Ratchet and Clank is probably upper echelon. So
Josh has been trying to get me to stream Sunset Overdrive since I started.
Yes.
Sure, I'll tune in. I'll finally tune in again.
I also really do want to play Sunset Overdrive at some point. But to me now, having been a Ratchet and Clank fan since I was a kid, and Spider-Man, a game that I'm sure at some point, one of these days, I will just break into a rant about how much I love that game. I'm so interested to see what Ratchet and Clank games look like post Spider-Man being made and post Insomniac being bought out by PlayStation. Yeah. It's like, I think Insomniac just used to be like this developer that
they were independent.
Perfectly good, perfectly fine, but like is now up there with like the Sony Santa Monica's, and like maybe I'm exaggerating with like the Naughty Dogs, but like they're very different games. But in terms of like the caliber of games that they have sent out, it's just like, what does a Ratchet and Clank look like in a post Spider-Man world?
Yeah.
Is anyone else surprised it took so long for them to buy Insomniac? I just assumed they would have done so a long time ago.
Oh, little, yeah.
Well, I remember when the announcement first made, and I was looking at it, I was like, they didn't already own them? I was under the impression that they owned them for a long time. Right, yeah. Like, yeah.
I assumed that if they weren't owned by them, that they
been
had
like an 1.5 party.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm upset those Sunset Overdrive rights didn't come with them. Like, I think that game would succeed on PlayStation if they brought it over and gave it like an easy platinum.
It would probably blow up on PlayStation.
Yeah. Enough to like grant a sequel, because that game fucking deserves it for sure.
Eventually, when Game Pass is everywhere.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Play it on Switch, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a nice game.
That would be dope.
Absolutely.
Please, Microsoft, please. Please put Game Pass on Switch.
All right, guys. It's the moment we've been waiting for. Because now Chris has to fight us. Mortal Kombat X.
Yeah!
Number 8 on our list.
Haven't played it.
Honestly, I genuinely think that it's way too high.
I'm more of an Injustice guy.
Agreed, but yes. Yeah. I'll say I jumped in, like, I usually play the Mortal Kombat and Injustice games. I'm not a very good fighting game player. Just a button masher. Look up the easiest combo to do and get through the story mode. And basically, yeah, that's what I do, is I jump in the story mode and bounce out. So that's my experience with Mortal Kombat X.
Mortal Kombat in general, for me, is a game that I can play with my dad, because he is someone that doesn't play games, but he'll 110% just destroy me by smashing the controller, and I'm like, this is not even fun anymore, and my dad loves it. I think I've played practically every Mortal Kombat just for the campaign, the whatever lore and story there is. But I'm one of those people who do the jump, crouch, uppercut. I'm one of those people. And I was very proud of myself, because I don't know if it was a trophy or something, but it might have been this game. It might have been one either around this game. Regardless, there's a level we have to fight both Goro and Kintaru. And I did that by only doing the uppercut and jumping and crouching. And I didn't get hit once. And I was very proud of myself. And I was like, I need to retire. Like, I need to never play a Mortal Kombat game again. So that's my experience with, I think, this game. Mortal Kombat in general. I don't know. I like Mortal Kombat. I like the games that you could make your own fighter. That was maybe Armageddon, maybe? I don't know if that's right.
That was Armageddon. Yep.
All right, dope. And I think Armageddon also had shout out to Motor Combat. Does anyone know what this is?
Oh yeah,
it sounds familiar.
It was
basically Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Rip off with like Mortal Kombat characters. Like, you had Scorpion's little get over here, and that would like propel your car forward. I love this stupid. So it was a stupid bad game. I played that way more than I played actual Mortal Kombat Armageddon.
I was like, how dare you? Motor Kombat was sick.
I loved it, dude. I think I tweeted about it a while back. I was like, remake this game, make it its own thing, make it free.
Do it, you coward.
Make it like a $10 game.
Yeah. Put it on Switch.
Make it free. Just make it. Just put it out. I think people would download it and play it, especially on mobile or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I go in phases with fighting games. Like I got my PlayStation for the Christmas after it came out, so 2014. The month after was Injustice 2 or Injustice 1, which I'd always wanted to play, was the PlayStation Plus game. Loved that story mode because it was more. I'm more of a comics guy than I'm a fighting game person guy. But in my past,
Right.
like the first game I got on my PSP was Mortal Kombat Unchained, which I played the shit out of, and then I did have Armageddon on my PS2. But if Injustice is any sign, I'm like Alec with fighting games. I'm gonna do the story mode. I might screw around, have a friend over, battle friends online. I'm not doing online with randos because I'm gonna get my ass whooped every time. But yeah, I mean, if I ever just need something to throw on or need a friend to play with, I think Mortal Kombat X is gonna be that good one for the PlayStation Plus collection. I kind of wish they made it 11 because I just only have a passing idea of who the characters are. That the whole story, from what I've heard, just sounds like it's really outrageous. That to the point that it's cool.
Oh, 11 story is awesome.
I'm kind of bummed we're getting a Mortal Kombat game and not PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale.
All right, just kick him out. Just get him out of here.
The best fighting game.
What a hot take.
Just get him out of here.
Remake that.
Somebody
that.
mute him.
A sequel.
No, I'm kind of with Josh. Not in the original, but like I think it's like maybe
God damn
try
it.
again. The original was a prototype.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're also
Put
living in
the Detroit characters in there.
yeah,
Spider-Man.
We have a Detroit, Spider-Man, Aloy, Abby, and Joel now that could be in there.
Exactly.
Like Fortnite and make it a battle royale, but with all PlayStation characters. If they put Marvel characters in this world, that could work, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Fortnite's like above collaborating with anybody.
Yeah, they went with Marvel.
I just mean like PlayStation makes their own thing. That is PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. Like again, they put that on the box. That's the title. But instead, the Battle Royale isn't like Smash. It's like Fortnite.
We don't need another battle royale. We don't need any more.
It's all PlayStation characters.
I do want to add that the campaign on Mortal Kombat 11 is super dope. Like,
it's very
all
good.
jokes aside, that campaign is very, very good.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
It made me feel good. It actually had good writing, which you don't say often about a fighting game when it's all about blood and guts. But I think the campaign actually genuinely had like good writing. So,
all right, let's talk about why you're wrong. All right, all of you. So,
we made him wait long enough.
Just collectively, I wanted to let you guys go first, so that way I could gush about it for a little bit. Because fuck me, I love this game. I live and breathe fighting games, man. It's one of my favorite genres to play, up there with like action adventure and FPS. Like if I had to boil it down to like the three games that I play, it would be those three. Mortal Kombat especially is near and dear to me. Which if any of you caught my my episode of the Up and Comer podcast with Josh Biddick, I make the joke that like I'm like 90% certain that the first video game I ever played as a child was the original Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo, and that's kind of why I turned out the way I am. And I've followed the series fairly closely, like throughout my entire life. I played the vast majority of the games through it, and part of what makes Mortal Kombat X so great, especially, was that it was the first game to return to the classic 2D style fighter after years and years of being a 3D fighter like Soul Calibur. And so it was the return to it because it was just a few years after like Street Fighter 4 and Mortal, like I guess technically it was the sequel to the first game to bring Mortal Kombat back to 2D, because it's just Mortal Kombat 9 on 360 and PS3, and it was a couple years after that. But they were like, okay, you know, we're giving it this whole like really like dark aesthetic, like almost leaning into like the kind of like horror gothic kind of vibe. Like it's much darker, it's less bright, which some people either love or hate, but I think it really fed into like the sort of like hyper violence that Mortal Kombat is known for. And the biggest thing was, it was like Mortal Kombat 9 played like the original games, and Mortal Kombat X was a more accessible, faster version of what made the original Mortal Kombat games so great. They pulled back all of the ridiculous combo chains and stuff, and made special moves easier to do and more accessible for newer players. Combo chains as a whole were smaller, and it became less about like who's able to perform a combo as well, just by pressing all the buttons correctly, and more about knowing when to use your combos at the right time, and became a much more balanced. Isn't necessarily the right word, because after about a year or so, the meta definitely moved towards like a small handful of characters, as fighting games tend to do. But it was just an easier game to get into with this brand new aesthetic. Plus, it was more accessible. They were putting a big focus back on the campaign again, which had a very, very, very good story mode that did, I think, get outshined later by Mortal Kombat 11, because 11 really embraced it. Like, we're going stupid with this. Here's ridiculous time travel, and it's fantastic. But I mean, X is what set that up. I would recommend playing X's story mode if you haven't played 11 yet and are interested in playing 11 story. Play through X first, because you'll get a lot of context that goes into 11. And they did a really, really cool thing to where it was like, okay, we're making a bunch of new characters for Mortal Kombat, which 9 didn't really have. It was mostly the old roster. This one, it was like, we're going a new direction with the story, and so all of there was like this new guard coming in, and they added a bunch of new characters in that were essentially like the children of the main characters from the older games. And I think that really freshened it up a lot, because Mortal Kombat is very much known for, like, its fan base is like, just give us the old characters again. We want these characters, and that's it. And so personally, I liked that a lot. Especially like Cassie Cage became my main, right? Like, and she was brand new to the series, and just overall, it was very fun. I liked it a lot. It also came to me at a time in my life to where it was like I was in my first apartment. I had my PlayStation 4, my friends, and I would just sit around and play Mortal Kombat for hours. It was dope, man. X is sick, and you should play it.
Don't mess with that bee lady.
There you have it.
Mortal Kombat or Smash?
All of us talked.
Yep.
Both, Josh.
You can only pick one for the rest of your life.
Smash.
Whoa.
Just like that. Just go at
Wow.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if at this point Smash got like Sub-Zero or Scorpion. Maybe that's a bit too violent for them, but like, I mean,
They have Bayonetta.
It'll be like a costume.
So they have
costume.
Snake in it.
Yeah, they have Snake. They have.
And Bayonetta, yeah.
They have Steve from Minecraft.
Would they not just make a Mii fighter costume?
That would be the most likely, I think.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
That fits in with kind of like the Fallout Shelter guy and the
There were rumors that they were going to do. Yeah, there's like Ezio. There's rumors that they were going to do a Doom guy Mii costume at one point too. Yeah. Fallout Boy, yeah, is the.
Fallout Boy, it's Vault Boy.
I know what I said.
Fallout Boy's a band, yo. God damn it. All right. So Chris fought us. He fought us off. He told us what's what on Mortal Kombat X. You heard it here, folks. Moving on from Mortal Kombat, the game I like way more than Mortal Kombat. Sorry, Chris. Until Dawn. I love Until Dawn. What do you guys think?
It's the only horror game I've played.
Stuff, baby.
Yeah.
Until Dawn's sick. Like, I love this game, man. Like, it's you take the concept of like the Telltale style games, and then are like, okay, what if we made it like an old school like 80s slasher flick? You know what I mean? It's a playable horror movie. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I love the decision making. I love like I went for the platinum on this as well, and like just keeping everyone alive is such a chore, but also like the fact that you can get death totems and like see people's deaths beforehand and kind of just try to prevent them and keep this roster of characters alive, but also like they're shitty teenagers from Alberta, right? So it's like, of course you want to see some of them die. So like, you know, no fault of your own.
I went to class with some of these guys.
It's also, I think, it's like, despite being like legitimately just a narrative game, it's one of the most fun games to play with other people.
Yes,
absolutely.
Just I mean, everyone's sitting down. It's like you're all getting spooky, you're getting scary. Everyone like arguing, trying to like making choices on like that. It's one of the most fun experiences I've had, especially once you get to the point where it's like I would play and like my friends and I would sit around and we'd pass the controller around, and then occasionally we'd get to that point where you have to stay still, which are very tense. And then I mean, it's, you know, my friends are all dicks, so we're like trying to swap the controller and make for each other.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Has any other game used that mechanic? The stay still mechanic? Has any other game done that?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think so. Not off the top of my head.
No.
Genius. It's genius for a horror.
Yeah.
But it's genius for a horror game. And I also want to, because you brought up the couch co-op stuff, I think that game kind of reinvigorated couch co-op. In my mind, it did. I didn't even think about it for years. Like it was just always online. But then this game came out, and it was just a casual popcorn and some friends on a couch in the basement or something, drinking soda. Like it brought me back. It really brought me back. So
Yeah,
I love that game for that.
I mean, it started there.
It's actually good.
Play together.
Yeah.
Basically started PlayStation's Play Together.
Oh yeah,
because it's the same developer that did Hidden
like
Agenda.
Time, did it?
right.
No, it was afterwards.
Was it? Okay. In my mind, it was.
I'm pretty sure it was afterwards.
I'm probably wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going. Keep going.
But yeah, I would say I played it fairly close to launch. But one of my favorite memories of that game is watching Achievement Hunter's Let's Play of it and watching Jeff just sit there and not decide, or not. Well, then he did ruin everything. But the moment I'm talking about is where he has to make a decision to go left or right, and just sits there. And I think it was Mike. And yeah, Mike just died because of that. Because Jeff just was sitting there getting chased, and he just didn't make a decision, so the Wendigo got him.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, Until Dawn holds a special place in my heart. It's the first game that me and my friend streamed together. I mean, it's the first game we either ever streamed. We only have ever streamed together, but you know what I'm saying. It's the first game that we did that. And my first experience with it was one of my favorite days ever in college, which is at one point in college I was in a show, and after the show was over, we still wanted to hang out as a cast, and there was one day where there was a snow day, and three of the people in the show all lived in the same apartment. They were like, everybody cook one thing, bring it over, we're spending the snow day here. And one of the people at the apartment had Until Dawn. We never played through the whole thing, but we started by just passing the controller around like roughly every hour or so, and just we made the rule that whoever has the controller gets to make the decision they want, but everyone else is allowed to yell and try to influence them.
That's exactly how we played it, yeah.
Like, Austin, you said it reinvigorates couch co-op, and then Chris, you go, it's basically a playable horror movie. I don't come from like a gaming family or even most of my gaming friends. I feel like I could pop this game in front of people that are just like, I want to do something scary, or like, just do something together, but it's kind of like a movie. And I'm like, I have the thing for you, because you don't have to really know how to play. You can even have one person do the whole thing, just be like, you're now the decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll do the controls. So it's just one of those things where you could definitely, like, couch co-op, I don't even think describes the experience, because it's more like, it's like the best type of chaotic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's perfect. And I mean, also just to kind of like piggyback off that, like how you like, it's like you have that memory of like being with castmates. Everyone's like, all right, we're just gonna get together. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna play this game. I mean, I had the very similar thing where, again, much like Mortal Kombat X, it was like I was living in my first apartment. There were three other guys with me, and like that year we'd all like picked up PlayStations, right? And my buddy Phil had gone out and picked this up. He was like, I saw this game. I don't know much about it. It was like $30. And so he came in, we popped it in, and I don't really. That was before I really started kind of getting into horror stuff. That was one of my first forays into horror gaming that like wasn't Resident Evil. And yeah, it was just that special night. We had turned all the lights off. We all had like popcorn and snacks and stuff. And like every chapter we'd switch off. But I mean, that wouldn't stop us from all like screaming at each other. Like during this, we all did our best to try and get that one dude laid. Like it was a great time, man. That game's so much fun. And yeah, it's perfect to just sit down, and that's a game you can play with people that don't play games. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, just bravo to that cast.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Rami Malek.
Hayden Panettiere. Oh man, her name is slipping me right
Guy
now.
from S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
From Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
The girl who plays Emily in the game is also Lip's college girlfriend from Shameless. I think her name's
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and my friend were arguing about it the entire time, so I just went and Googled it. It is her. It's just like, damn, this goddamn cast.
It's fun too. There's a couple scenes that are still like kind of burning. Like I anytime I hear like anything about a Ouija board, like I always go to that whole sequence. And
Oh, and Jordan Fisher, by the way.
Huh?
Just shout out also to Jordan Fisher, Broadway actor, Netflix actor turned Twitch streamer who is also in the game. So yeah, I mean, just
he's dope. He's dope.
He is. unfortunate that the follow-ups haven't been as good, but like Until Dawn, I don't think Until Dawn is gonna decrease in value if the rest don't match up. I think it's actually only gonna make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely lighting in a bottle, I think.
I liked Man of Medan, not nearly as much as I liked Until Dawn, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like they didn't really market isn't the right word. They didn't really set the right expectation for that game because it's really short. Like it's a compact, more experience than Until Dawn was, and I didn't feel like they kind of sold that home enough.
Yeah. I also feel like with Man of Medan is like you can't.
Any more thoughts on Until Dawn? Anything?
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like with Man of Medan, one of the issues was like I can't really. I'm someone who hasn't played that game. Looking at it from the outside, I can't really describe it. Whereas like what Chris said is like Until Dawn, I could picture. I'm like it's literally your '80s classic horror movie tropes and situation put into a video game where there's several different endings, and it's your fault if a character dies or your decision even. So it's just I feel like if they kind of in the future they took more of these like classic tropes and changed them up, I think I'm not a director. I think that would be better, but that's just my final idea.
Fair enough. Okay, guys. Last one on the list. For number 6. Jordan wore the right shirt. Batman Arkham Knight.
Should have been higher.
What do you think? Ooh.
Yes, this is my favorite Arkham game.
Oh, that's a hot take.
Yeah, I know it is.
That's a hot take.
There's days I might be with you. There's days.
I'm the only one on the cast who has not played this game. I don't like the Arkham games. It's just me.
Sean.
Oh, man.
Sorry, can't get into it. I feel like
Shame.
I don't know. I feel like Batman IPs. The Batman IP is overdone in my opinion. I see Batman and I get turned off. First thing that got me hyped.
We're parting ways for creative differences.
First Batman related thing that got me hyped was that trailer for the new Pattinson one, the movie. Trailer was so good.
That looks awesome.
It looks good.
I want that suit in Arkham Knight.
I know, right?
That'd be dope.
Yeah.
That'd be dope. So talk your hearts out, but I don't have anything to say about this game.
So
I love the Riddler.
I'll get mine out of the way. I'll just go first because I do have a lot of thoughts, and maybe I'll just throw my contentious shit out there and be done. I like the game a lot. I don't think it's as good as Arkham City. For one specific reason, there's entirely too much fucking Batmobile shit. To the point where it's like the Batmobile, unlike Batman himself, doesn't really upgrade or do anything different past the 5-hour mark in the game. So you're just kind of repeating all the same stuff you did over and over and over and over again throughout the thing, and it just gets tiresome and boring, and I hate it. The rest of the game is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It looks really great. The story is very, very good. I liked that they actually focused on Scarecrow rather than trying to appeal to his entire rogues gallery like the previous 2 games did, which I know some people didn't like, but I think that made it a little more. It felt more focused, which was cool, and the story itself was great. Of course, shout out to Mark Hamill in his performance as the Joker in this one, because I think, despite not thinking it's better than Arkham City, I do think that is the best version of the Joker that we get in the Arkham. Even though spoilers, I mean, in the 3rd game he's dead and is just an amalgamation of what's going on inside Batman's head, and it's brilliant. What they did with the Joker in that game was incredible. Especially, it's after the point where you start hallucinating about him, it's you literally start hallucinating about him, and occasionally you'll see Joker's face painted over something, like over a statue or a billboard, and you'll just kind of see it out the corner of your eye, and then when you turn back, it's gone, and then you have to sit there and feel like, did I actually see that? Am I fucking going crazy? It's just beautifully done.
He's sitting on the edge of buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that whole studio scene.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
What's the best part of those games? Because when I have played Arkham City, I thought the combat was dull. I didn't like the combat all that much. I thought I had experienced that kind of combat in Assassin's Creed or other games kind of like that. And then I never liked detective mode in games. So what is the best aspect of these games? Because for me, it just seems either dull or not my thing.
It might just be not your thing, because it's Batman Simulator.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
I'm kind of almost with you on one thing. When I first as for my history with the Arkham franchise, I played every game except Asylum. So I played City and then Origins and then Night. Night was one of the first games I had on my PS4, and I tied in so much with my freshman year of college and my beginning years of the PS4. But when I was first playing City, Austin, I will say, before I fully understood that I was supposed to stun them and do takedowns, I felt like the combat was very dull because Batman's punches, at least in City, in my memory, didn't feel like they connected. But that's also me. I played City like in high school. Wasn't as into like understanding why things didn't feel right. And again, I also didn't fully know the combat system. As for Arkham Knight, I agree. Too much Batmobile. I do think if that game was made today, the Batmobile would have to have some sort of an upgrade umbrella where you get to choose how you.
Honestly, if they'd given it like an upgrade tree, I'd have had less problems with it. Yeah.
It just needs one of those. Less levels. I can't remember. Can you call it in at any time?
Yes.
Pretty much,
Okay.
yeah.
So I think that was another cool feature about it because it's supposed to be Batman Simulator. So the fact that we finally
wasn't that what all the marketing was about for that game? Was the Batmobile?
Yeah,
I just remember that.
Because that was the first game, first and only game you could drive it in.
Exactly. But it kind of just became more of a nuance kind of mini game, not nuance, more of a nuisance mini game. The story, now that I'm remembering, Chris, you've jogged my memory a bit, I'm realizing how much was fucking going on with that story. And I don't think it hurt it, but it's just kind of, now, I haven't played that game in 5 years. 5 years later, I really only remember he's hallucinating about the Joker, and obviously the Arkham Knight, who, well, we already spoiled that Joker dies, is Red Hood, which, because I like kind of the Batman lore and the stories.
Saw it come from a mile away.
I've had
everyone did.
Because they started advertising Red Hood stuff every day when that game came out. But I wanted to like not believe that it was him. But yeah, I basically got spoiled. I also liked how this game evolved with how in City you had DLC where you could play as the other character, and in this game you had like levels where Batman was fighting alongside Catwoman or Nightwing, and you get to fully take control of that character in that moment. But
don't mind me.
No, you're good. Ooh, I had that cider a couple weeks ago. It's very good.
How much could it take?
Yeah, no, I love this game. Guys. It feels like the perfect culmination to the Arkham trilogy, and like Rocksteady's growth from like the first game to the final game. Like it feels like there is studio maturity there. Like the first game feels like, you know, they're just kids with some Batman toys, just, you know, banding them together. And then City feels like they're drawing a comic book, but this feels like they're like a film major, and there's a lot more like cinematic pieces, especially with a lot of the Joker hallucination bits. Like you don't get a great boss fight like you do with Mr. Freeze in Asylum or in City, but you do get like the ending with the Joker bit, that whole entire cinematic piece where you're playing as the Joker. It's
that whole bit where it goes in a first person is still like,
exactly
like one of my favorite gaming memories ever, just because it's like it kind of flips that script of like you're playing as the Joker. It turns into like this weird ass first person shooter, and it's incredible. But then it like briefly becomes almost like a horror game. Like you're suddenly like you're Joker going after Batman, and I mean he's gone full like I'm the Batman and I'm scary mode, and it's very very cool. I did also want to quickly turn around and touch on something that Jordan and I were talking about, which was the combat, which also kind of found it dull, but I feel like it's at least worth mentioning that it's like, yeah, you mentioned you'd played it in other games like Assassin's Creed or just about any action game that comes out these days is like, but something that I feel like needs to be said is that it's because of Arkham that games have that sort of combat system now. Like Arkham Asylum was kind of the first thing to do that attack and counter kind of thing. Like even the first Assassin's Creed kind of had it, but it wasn't until after Asylum came out where they implemented something very similar in Assassin's Creed 2. In both of those kind of blew up and did that sort of thing. It's like just mentioning like how influential that was on gaming as a whole, especially when you get in like third person action games. Is like so many games use the Arkham style combat now that it's crazy.
That's why it's called the Arkham style combat.
Yeah, they call it Arkham Combat. I mean, Mad Max used it. The Shadow of Mordor games used it because I mean, fair enough,
all WB.
But I mean, I mean, it's worth mentioning that it's like you can throw a rock and hit an action game now that uses something that was influenced by Arkham Knight's or Arkham Asylum's combat, and I felt like like by the time you get to Arkham Knight, it's like they've implemented on that enough that I mean it's like it's not this it doesn't play the same as Asylum. I think it was improved enough to give you a bunch of extra gadgets and tools and variety and enemy types that I think it was still at least interesting to me. Something else that I also wanted to point out is I actually just earlier this year I was in a big like Batman mood, and so I went back and watched like the Dark Knight trilogy and everything, and then I was like, I haven't played in a while. Was Arkham Knight? Like I played it at launch back when it came out, and I loaded it up again, and that game is still gorgeous.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Damn, that's a good looking game.
Yeah.
Especially once he gets like yeah, go for
it. Strip Batman from this game. No Batman license. Is this still a top tier game?
See, I don't. I'd say from gameplay perspective, yes. I think you could flip it to be an original IP, and it would be something that's still interesting. But I do think part of the reason that it works so well is not only that it's Batman, but it's how well they treated the Batman IP. Everything is adapted from the comics and the movies and the cartoons and the TV shows and everything, and all kind of blended and put into its own thing, to where I mean the Arkhamverse is now considered like its own timeline within like the whole Batman saga, because of how well they adapted the IP to the game and with how much care that they put into it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's to the point. It's like every corner of all three games that you could look in, you could find some kind of reference to something or a hint at something else. Like it's like you will never find a game whose world is as dense as the Arkham series,
right?
Even to other DC properties.
Yeah. So that's what I was gonna say, Austin. Is I think it's, if you were to ask that question, let's say about Marvel's Spider-Man, I would say, well, if you took Spider-Man, the IP out of Marvel Spider-Man, you would basically, I think, just have Sunset Overdrive for the most part.
Yeah, you would.
I feel like you can't do that with Arkham because everything was basically, how do we translate this into Batman mode? So if I took Batman out of it, but I still had a level where I fight with another guy who has a different style, I'd be very confused because they don't explain it. But just knowing a little bit about Batman, I understand Nightwing is a more versatile person that uses sticks instead of his punches, and I can adapt my playstyle to that without needing a full tutorial of him. Just a quick few, do this, do this, do this. And then the gadgets are everyday Batman things. So like, who else just kind of throws something? Like throwing knives, I guess, but then there's a remote controlled one, then there's a Sonic one. It's just literally everything about these games are so ingrained into the Batman IP, which is probably their best quality, but I don't think necessarily. I'm just gonna go on a little bit of a rant here. I've ever since Arkham, which I love and I think are amazing games, people have said this is how you make a superhero game. That has to be interpreted very loosely into, it's not that every superhero game needs to have that kind of combat or the gadget system or a detective mode, but every superhero game needs to think of the superhero first and the game second. And like Marvel Spider-Man takes something,
which also Spider-Man also has the Arkham combat. I'm just gonna say
it does, and especially
it does it better though.
It does do it better.
Spider-Man
I agree.
has the stealth modes, whereas, and Batman goes under, Spider-Man goes above. That's the difference between the heroes. But like when I say what Spider-Man took from Arkham is they took the basis of the hero that we already knew. They didn't need to give him an origin. They found a story that's able to incorporate most of their most famous rogues. And sure, you could say the combat, but I'll argue that Spider-Man and Batman as comic characters have fairly similar combat to begin with. If we're gonna make a Superman game, I don't expect Superman to have the same combat as Spider-Man and Batman.
No.
But I'm just go to any hero. If we were to make, an Iron Man game, which there have been the movie times, but let's say like an actual from the bottom up.
I say Daredevil would probably be like the closest you get to like a Batman game on the Marvel side.
Oh, dude, a Daredevil game in VR that's all in detective mode graphics.
Oh, fuck me. Oh shit, dude.
Yeah.
Why do you make me want things that I can't
That's
have?
a really good idea.
I'm sorry. But yeah, I think that what Arkham did is it shows the best way to adapt things, but you don't want to copy Arkham. You want to copy kind of their philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, again, worth pointing out just again to the Arkham game's legacy though too is you mentioned the whole kind of statement of people like looking at like Asylum in particular and being like, wow, this is how you make a superhero game. It was also kind of the turning point of like, holy shit, a licensed game that doesn't suck.
Right.
Which I mean, before that is like outside of like the Lord of the Rings games, like Two Towers and Return of the King. Like they're really, it's like you didn't make video games based off of IP that were popular elsewhere. It didn't really happen, and they turned out great. There's some exceptions, but I mean,
I'm gonna actually say the Incredibles game, but I haven't played that game since I was 8, so maybe it's the nostalgia
Monster House.
God damn it! I swear, I swear.
James Bond game were kind of good.
Yeah, and I like I said, there were some exceptions, but I mean, it's like if I remember correctly, I think like Game Informer gave Asylum a 10, and IGN ranked it very, very highly as well, and it was kind of one of those things. It was like, wow, like this is a real AAA licensed game. And I mean, yeah, it is kind of like the spawning point of like, wow, it really makes you feel like the meme. It's like, yeah, I feel like Batman, because that's what it does. That's what they do so well. And by the time you get to Night, because that's the game we're talking about, I keep going back to Asylum, and I'm sorry for that. It's been like implemented on so many times by the time you get to Night that it's so refined in Arkham Knight that it's like, while Night's not my favorite of the series, I do think it's the most fun to play, if that makes any sense.
Easily, yeah.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah. It's so well designed, especially just because they improved the AI in it. Like all of the stealth segments that you have to do in Night are perfect. Oh my god, they're incredible.
With basically taking you out of detective mode with all those segments where they had the guys that you had to take out to use detective mode.
Which was great, because that was always a criticism that I had, was it leaned too hard on detective mode. And so Night, they were like, okay, well, here's somebody that you can't use detective mode on in order to fight them. And I was like, perfect, this is great. Like, it was legitimately challenging. Like, I didn't find the first two like super difficult outside of maybe like the Mr. Freeze fight, but that Night, there's a couple of rough spots in Night where I'm like, fuck, I got to do this again. Like I keep getting caught and the shit beat out of me.
Yeah.
Night is also the one that.
So if combat was my real quick, if combat was my main issue, is this the one Batman game I need to play? Because you said it's the most fun. So is it going to do better in my mind? Because I think the clunkiness of Batman. Because I love Spider-Man. But Spider-Man's more nimble, and I love that aspect of it. So I think it's the bulkiness that I don't like. It is me.
Which is fair. Which is fair, and I can't agree with you. And I wouldn't say, especially since Spider-Man came after. I still don't think Night is as fluid as Spider-Man, but that's also just kind of something that lends itself to the characters themselves, because Spider-Man is always on the move, he's always flying around, he's doing all those sorts of things. And I mean, Batman in the games is very nimble, but it's not going to be on the same level as Spider-Man. And I mean, I 100% understand how completely biased I am, but I do think that Spider-Man does the Arkham combat better than the Arkham games.
I wholeheartely agree. It's a lot more engaging. There's like a risk reward system, whether you want to like have an instant takedown on a guy or heal up. The gadgets are a lot better in Spider-Man 2. I also I don't agree with some of the story decisions, but and I don't mind the Batmobile. Like, I would have a lot more of an issue with the Batmobile if it wasn't fun to control. Like, I've played a lot of Battlefield games, a lot of Call of Duty games, and none of those games have tanks that feel as great as the actual Batmobile, which is weird to say because it's a Batman game, but just like sliding around and dodging bullets and taking down like 50 tanks just feels awesome.
Holding the lock on and just everything explode.
Yeah. It does. It does feel good to drive. You know, you got a point.
Yeah.
Now another thing.
I just say that it's so weird that Spider-Man isn't on this collection. I'll let you go, Alec. But Spider-Man isn't in this collection. Is that not weird? Is anyone else not?
It's because they're charging for it.
They're doing the remaster with Miles Morales. Like, I think that's the only reason.
Gotcha. That's right. That's true.
I wouldn't be surprised if.
But do you think that's going to be a? Do you think that's going to be an insane trilogy thing, Jordan? Where it comes in later?
So I don't think it's going to be. I can see it being added in later. I actually think that maybe this is the first year, or this is the first few months that we have it. This is a push for. This one very much reeks of if you didn't own a PlayStation 4, these are all the games you missed out on. I think next year, and this is how I think they would do it, is like around the holidays, be like PlayStation Plus Collection 2. Have they confirmed like how long do you get these games for? Like at any point, can they just say you don't have it?
I don't think there's a time limit on it, at least not right now.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if like next year around the holidays they went, we're gonna revamp it for the new bulk buyers. Here is the new PlayStation Plus collection. You'll probably see some of the same games stay, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw things like Spider-Man enter in? And off the top of my, probably maybe an Uncharted.
I think it could be something similar to that, but I also would be surprised if the current roster stayed. Uncharted 4 is, I think, on the list though.
So Nathan Drake collection, maybe.
So yeah, maybe like Nathan Drake
Lost
collection
Legacy.
or Lost Legacy.
Legacy.
But I also wouldn't be surprised if they just. I think adding Crash and Black Ops 3 is almost adding the precedent. It's like and I mean, I don't think it's going to be to the same scale as what Xbox is doing, but I think they could be going after a similar value to what Game Pass offers.
Yeah, Spider-Man is definitely the biggest glaring point because it's. Oh, and everyone froze. No, sorry, just Austin. I thought my internet went out. My bad.
Yeah, no worries.
Back on track. I think, yeah, because this is supposed to be the what did you miss out on if you didn't have a PlayStation 4, Spider-Man is that biggest glaring blind spot. But at the same time, they could package it of like, you get Miles Morales Launch Edition and the PlayStation Plus collection. And if you were an Xbox One person, you have everything that is worth of value that you have been hearing people brag about. So it's still
I can see Spider-Man being added later down the line. I think it's just because they're doing a remastered version of Spider-Man coming with Miles Morales that they're not going to also offer it in PlayStation Plus at the same time as it releases.
If anything, it would just be like the backwards compatibility version. It wouldn't be the remaster.
Yeah, it could just be like the straight up PS4 version. Yeah.
Is that all you wanted to say, Alec? I remember I cut you off and I said I'd get back
no
to
worries.
You. So any other thing you wanted to say?
Yeah, so one last thing I guess before we wrap up this part of the list. I just wanted to give a shout out to that whole part of the game that was in the TV studio. Because for me, I wasn't, I'm not huge into the Arkham or just the Batman lore, so I had no clue who Jason Todd was. So that was my whole first introduction into Jason Todd.
Right.
So that was crazy to me seeing all that happen. So I just want to give a shout out to that scene or to that part of the game.
And that's what I mean with the like cinematic, like they take a lot more of a cinematic approach versus a gameplay approach. Like just turning around and like seeing Jason Todd in the chair, and you have a lot of those moments, and like you can tell Batman's starting to lose his shit a lot more. And like even when Robin's trying to lock him in the cage, and you realize that was just all a hallucination too. Like it's.
Yeah, they do a lot of very, very cool like visual things to kind of mess with you in that game that none of even like the other Arkham games really did, and it was a great way to kind of keep that like fresh and interesting as you go on, because I mean by this time, if you played Origins, this is your fourth time kind of doing the Arkham thing, and they definitely found a great way to keep it different while still also being familiar.
Right.
Which reminder to
so we
listening that wants to play Knight but wants to experience all of Arkham. Return to Arkham is a bundle with City and Asylum that is going to be backwards compatible. So
play all three. Absolutely. Play all three of them if you get the chance. Yeah.
You can get Return to Arkham super cheap.
I liked Origins.
Origins is very good. Origins is very
good.
Origins multiplayer.
One of the best boss fights of all time.
Which one?
Absolutely.
Oh, Deathstroke.
Deathstroke.
Okay.
Yeah. I hated that game. That made me quit the game for 2 days.
Also, just one last thing I wanted to mention in terms of like maturing with Rocksteady and like them just really coming into their own. Asylum came out when I was in 6th grade. Knight is my first legally M-rated game I've ever purchased, which is insane to like actually get a Batman game with an M rating on it. Like
I think it was the first one.
Yeah, exactly. Like that felt it got the M rating for some of the just cinematics and stuff like that. Like that felt like, all right, we're actually going to take this a lot more seriously. We're going to have dramatic beats. The stakes are going to be raised. And like, it came out like 5 days after my 17th birthday. That was the one where I could finally just walk into an EB Games and just legally purchase an M-rated game.
Yeah,
Batman.
It was an M-rated game. It got dark.
Yeah,
and screw
exactly,
Man-Bat.
Fuck Man-Bat.
God, that's jump scares, I swear.
Right, so on the last episode, I told you one game that would be in the next 6. Chris wanted to fight us for it. But on this one, we know the last 5. So do you want me to list the last 5 in any order? Because I mean, literally, if anyone knows the collection, they know what 5 is here. Do I just want to run down the 5 in any order to
give us
get
the
it
5.
out there?
Give us the 5.
My headset just cut out again. Give me a second. I didn't hear the final answer. Do you want me to list the 5?
Yes, please.
Okay. So in any order, it's Uncharted 4, Thief's End, God of War, Resident Evil 7, Persona 5, and The Last of Us Remastered.
Damn,
Those are the last
bro.
5 games.
That's a solid top 5.
Damn.
A killer lineup. A killer lineup.
That's
for
a
sure.
solid top 5.
That's
Any
gonna be a
order.
long-ass
Any
episode,
order.
Man. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's why, it's one game less, but it's probably gonna be the longest one we record. And I thought of a new thing that we could possibly put into the finale. If you guys want to, you can just shut me down too. Just shut me down. But
That's the plan.
so, ouchies. I think it'd be cool to kind of predict games they would add on later down the line. So like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
probably maybe not do Spider-Man because that's probably like we just talked about that. But like, I don't know, maybe another close, I don't know, PlayStation associated game that would be likely added to the collection. I think that would be a cool segment to add in the finale. So everyone has a little homework. Everyone can just think of a game to bring next time, and then we can talk about that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, we can play fast and loose with it. We can play fast and loose with it.
I'm personally probably gonna have a couple backups in case, one, the conversation goes.
Yeah,
It's a good idea.
Maybe pick like 3. Pick one that you want to
It's a
go.
good idea.
Just in
So we
case.
don't
2
choose the
backups,
same
yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So, like I said, it's Uncharted 4, Persona 5, Resident Evil 7, God of War, Last of Us Remastered. It's going to be a killer of an episode. Until then, see you later. Thanks for watching Waypoint Ranks. Bye-bye.